Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business. Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson. And depending on whether you're listening to this at right at the time when we release it at the end of March or early April, you know, we're finishing our first quarter and we're moving into the second. And I have a question for you. How did it go? Did you take the action required to get to your goals this year? Are you on track? Because today we're going to be talking about one more tool that you can sharpen up and keep in your tool belt, and that is video. I've invited my friend Dan Thurman to the show. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks, Jane. Good to see you. And it's appropriate that we're going to do a video Zoom here since we're talking about video as the tool, right?
Yeah, so fingers crossed that the video works flawlessly. We all know how Wi-Fi is and different things can kind of throw wrenches in our plans. So fingers crossed that that all goes well. And we'll give a plug in a minute here for the video lab that's coming up for the National Speakers Association, in which you are the president. So we'll talk about that here in a second as well. But first, you have used video quite brilliantly in your own business, and I really wanted to kind of pick your brain about all the different pieces of the puzzle. How, when did you kind of go, okay, video is going to be a real strategy for me?
Well, fortunately, I knew it from the beginning because I came into speaking through the door of entertainment. Right. And so I knew that the only way I could sell myself as a performer, at the time I was doing variety and comedy and all these other type shows and skills, was to show it. The audiences need to see what they're going to buy. So now that was 25 years ago. And my first speaking reel was VHS tape that I edited together between two VHS decks. And back then, you actually had to mail the tape in advance when you got a phone call and inquiry for the date. And it would be like, all right, I'm going to send you this tape. And then in about 3 days or so, after you received it and have a chance to look at it, I'll call you back again and then we can have a conversation. So, and back then, the formats were fuzzy and grainy and it was just awful by comparison, but it was enough. It was enough to differentiate you because others did not have that tool, and people needed to get it in their head in terms of some imagining of what it was like, and really, are they going to trust you with the integrity of their event? And that's the biggest thing. The difference today is that the expectations are that everything has to look fantastic, HD, because we're accustomed to it, and it streams in real time, and it better stream quickly, and it better look dynamite. And you only have this small window when we're talking about the preview video as to whether or not people are going to eliminate you, which is their first choice. They're looking at that same way you go through your inbox. You're saying, what email messages can I delete without even considering them before I start thinking?
Yeah.
It's the same about speakers. It's like, nope, I don't like, there's something about it that's unprofessional, or that what they're saying doesn't resonate, or whatever it is. You want to pass that first cut and then really hang in there for the duration. Yeah. So video, and again, it used to be like one video was what you need, and you could use a video for a couple of years. No, not these days. You need a portfolio of video. You need to continuously be in the process of reevaluating and regenerating and evolving your video to the next iteration. And that's just a promo video. It's also a tool for expanding your brand, expanding your markets, creating revenue streams, communicating with your clients, closing dates. I was just in the studio this morning. We're doing a series of 7 hold videos. We call them hold videos because essentially when we've got a date on hold, I have a studio that I use that's always set up, and I can go in there and do a quick video, say, this is Dan Thurman, author of the book Off Balance on Purpose. Thanks for considering me. And then convey to them the essence of what I understand already about them, like reflecting that I've already done my homework in terms of understanding what they're looking for. And then like helping present the idea why my message and my style of delivery which is a differentiator, will be the right solution. But to do it in a way that's, short, these are like a minute and a half in length tops.
Yep.
And also coming across as being completely confident and not needy, not like I'm trying too hard to get the date, right? So there's this wonderful balance you have with those as well.
Okay, so hang on. Let me introduce you properly, Dan, so that people will understand. When you say you needed to show them what it was that you might do on stage, it's more important when you do things that are very visual on the stage. So I grabbed this thing from your website, and I want to share it with people. Dan Thurman isn't just a world-renowned Hall of Fame keynote speaker. He's also an author, entrepreneur, workplace performance expert, fitness advocate, acrobat, unicyclist, even on mountains, yes, really, drummer, and in his late 40s, learning the flying trapeze. There's so much to unpack in there that I feel like we could spend a whole hour just trying to figure out what exactly Dan Thurman is all about. But because you do some of this work on stage, let's back up a little bit and talk about the types of presentations that you offer so people will understand kind of how important the video is to it, especially the preview video.
Okay, so for me, I'm primarily a keynote speaker. I'm the guy that they bring in to either open or close a meeting,
right?
Primarily. Also, I could do the after dinner, after lunch, kind of those slots where you need more energy. I leverage a lot of energy and impact because I incorporate some of my skills. Now, again, I mentioned I came from an entertainment background as a juggler, acrobat, unicyclist, and those were skills that served me very well, through my college years and such. And I still utilize those elements somewhat to illustrate and amplify the lessons that I teach.
Right.
And so, what's really critical about the video for me is that, and you'll notice this on my website or in any of my videos, I'm really careful with how I differentiate myself with those skills, because it's very easy for someone to think, oh, he's an entertainer.
Yes.
Oh, he's like an entertainer with a message.
You get pigeonholed, which is where your book and your message of Off Balance on Purpose really helps you go, that pieces it together for me quite nicely.
So the way what I think about all the time is context, right? So we have our uniqueness, we have our individuality and our skills and our backgrounds, our stories, but without the context, they're just one-dimensional or two-dimensional. But when we can establish that, which you can through the leverage of your branding and your video, etc. Right. But I will say also that even if you don't have those entertainment or visual elements to your speech, the video still tells your audience in an instant: are you confident? Right. Are you composed? Are you professional? Yeah. What kind of stage are you standing on? Is it something that's well produced, or is it something that's in the corner of a meeting room against an air wall, or something you did in your basement, or whatever? Because I have a meeting, or I have an event, or client or corporate engagement. I get one chance to put the right person in that room, again, in charge of that moment, right? And that can make or break my event in terms of what people are talking about. So unless you convey to me that you're going to be comfortable in my environment, I see that in a reflection of the environments you've already been in. Does that make sense?
We often talk about shooting the video of the engagements that you covet. So if you want to be a big stage speaker, you're going to need some big stage video. And one of the techniques that my client Kendra Hall used in the early stages of her career was Will Speak for Video. So she would get herself on those big stages before she was getting, the big bucks to be on those stages, in order to trade for video, because it was really important to her. And I thought that was a pretty good strategy.
It's an excellent strategy, and yet, if you are going to employ that strategy, or even if you are getting paid and you also notice They've got some high quality cameras in the room. They're doing image magnification or IMAG, where the video is going directly to the screens, where they have the resources on site. You can't just expect that that's going to work itself out. You need to manage it very carefully. Like, take a look at the lighting. How's the lighting in the room? Everything. In order for a video to really rock, the audio has to be phenomenal. The lighting has to be phenomenal. The staging has to be phenomenal. And so do you. Like, all those pieces have to line up. So here's a couple quick suggestions. And I know we're just riffing.
Sure.
But if you find yourself in an environment where you're thinking, okay, video is going to be important to me here. Even if there's IMAG cameras, again, these are the ones who are there to only take you from, where you are in the room on stage up to the screens. Mm-hmm. So those camera operators are going to be framing you like this, or from your waist up or something like this. So you're really not going to get the dynamics of a big room unless you have other video to supplement that. So in those occasions, you might want to hire another videographer to be in the room on a floating camera to get some of those other shots, or to shoot B-roll of the audience, or those other elements that just would not be there otherwise. You also need to record audio. You can either record your own audio on a separate mic that you wear that goes to a recording device, or you can get an audio out from the board feed, which goes to a recorder, a Zoom recorder. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad idea to have audio from a few different sources, because anything can happen in one of those elements where the camera has a ground lift area, or it gets a buzz in it or something like that, where you just have this extraneous noise which ruins the whole thing.
And have you ever had it, Dan, where you're like, oh, this is it. This is going to be the recording that helps me hit that next flash point.
Oh, totally.
And then something disappointing happens where the camera person didn't do their job, or whatever it might be. And, for you, who's moving across the stage and rapidly, you really need to be in control of that. So I really like what you're talking about. And so we're going to start from the stage and the demo video and kind of work our way backwards to some other things that we do here in video as well. Would you start with the production company that's already been hired and try to hire an extra camera? Or would you bring in your own person? What do you think about that?
Well, either way, you're going to need client permission. And again, if you've negotiated your fee in some respect for this consideration, then you have some leverage there.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're asking them for a favor. And
I would say I'm going to pay for it. So I'm not suggesting that you say, could you please add an extra camera for me? I'm suggesting that you ask, would it be okay if I asked this production company, if I worked with them directly and paid them directly?
You can. You'll probably, you can. And it might be a very easy thing for them to add an extra camera. If they may have multiple cameras on the set already. Mm-hmm. On a really nice event that's very well produced, there will be multiple cameras, and then there'll be a switcher or a director backstage who decides which cameras to cut to next, kind of like producing a television show.
Right.
In those cases, normally what they record, if they record anything at all, a lot of times they don't even have a recording deck set up, because so you can't assume that. You need to make sure that it's going to be there. Because that's an extra expense, right? And so unless they have a reason to archive a meeting, they may not even archive it. Mm-hmm. And if they do, generally all they're going to record is the live switch. So they're going to, whatever decisions that director makes in real time, those are the decisions that get recorded.
Right.
Now, the good news is you end up, if it's a very qualified team, you end up with a base cut of multiple cameras that can end up looking really good already without a lot of additional production time for you. The bad news is you don't get to make those choices later. Like, they're set.
Right.
And so,
right. So your own person can really do things more in line with what your goals are. And you would tell them ahead of time, okay, this is a part that I really want to make sure we capture. These are the words leading up to it. Let's make sure we're coming in at this moment and out at this moment, and then what have you, right? You really want to direct that.
Yeah, and be very cognizant of what you want to get. Like you said, what do you want to get on film, get captured? And every time you do a video in that setting, what I'm always thinking about is, what don't I already have? When I think
Right.
about what my next video wants to be, how it's going to evolve, what is the line, that line that I want to say that lands with such authority? It's like the brevity of what I'm saying is so powerful,
Right.
and I can envision that as being the start of my next video, or a line I just cut to, because one of the trends that's really important now is, like, because attention spans are so short,
Hmm.
it still is very useful to have a long form video, but you also need to have something that conveys the essence of who you are quickly.
Right.
So I might say, I'm definitely going to make sure that I get this line in. And so then I'm speaking live to the audience. I get to that point and I just make sure I'm lit. I make sure I'm in the right spot, and I just
Hmm.
deliver the line very clearly and with authority. Right. And
Right.
then if it doesn't come out like the way I wanted it to, I take a step back, I take a step forward, and I do it again. Right.
Oh,
Because,
interesting. So
because
because the audience doesn't know,
the
they
audience
might be
thinks,
hearing it a second time, but it's like, let me reinforce what I just said.
yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
They think you're just reinforcing your point.
That's great.
But what you need to know is, like, I'm not getting out of this situation without what I came for, right?
Yeah, that's
Our
good.
buddy Jason Hewlett, he had an opportunity to speak for, he was telling me just the other day, for 14,000 people or something. And he had one of those gorgeous rooms with just like people everywhere. And he had
Yeah.
hired a photographer to follow him out on stage, because that's the one shot, right? That everybody
Yeah.
wants, is
Like
like,
from behind out to
yeah,
the audience.
from behind as you're coming
I
out to
love
the
that.
audience. And he said, I did it twice. He
Yeah.
said, I came out, I talked to the audience. I was like, hey buddy, how you doing? And they responded or whatever. And he said, you know what? I think we could do better than that. And I went,
Ah,
that's
nice.
I went,
That's great.
and I
That's,
talked and I talked to my video guy. I said, did you get it? And he said, yeah, I got it. He said, okay, well, get it again.
okay, good. That will be forever known as the Bradley Cooper Lady Gaga shot,
Oh, no
because did
kidding.
they not do? I mean, obviously, you're very much into production and all of the technology of this, right?
Yes.
They not do the most epic performance by having them bring out the piano and then standing up from the front row of the audience and coming up onto the stage. I thought that was absolutely genius, and he directed that whole thing just the way that they wanted it and how it was shot. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. And as speakers, we want to get maybe that closing shot of how people respond right when you're finished speaking. No doubt you have a few of those
Yeah.
if you can.
But hey, as you know, not everybody's a keynoter. And I think, even if what you do is working with smaller groups, corporate boardrooms, training, whatever, some element that conveys you in that setting provides to your audience the social proof and the verification that they can trust you. And another element in a video that goes a long way toward that are your testimonials.
Mm-hmm.
You can use those strategically to cut to in the flow of what you're doing. I have videos that are only testimonials, that are just series of testimonials about my work or whatever. But you build, what you end up doing is building a portfolio of video, because again, it's one of them's not enough. Some people
Right.
might want to see something that's more about the philosophy of what you do. But you mentioned I'm president of NSA right now, and so we're planning multiple events all the time, and for Winter Conference, Video Lab, for Influence, which is our big event. And so we end up looking at a lot of videos. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to evaluate, will this person rock this stage? Like,
Mm-hmm.
will they be great with my audience? And all you get is a video that's them explaining the philosophy of what they do or whatever. It's just like,
Not enough.
fast forward, waste of time. I want to see you doing the thing that
Yeah.
I want to hire you doing.
So you want to see them on the equivalent of the Influence stage, which is a
Yeah.
big stage, big production, beautiful screens. And so this is so important to hear, because I feel as though there's a lot of speakers, and that's the first thing you see on their video is them talking to the camera. And the client really wants to see you on stage. And I don't think that there's a whole lot of preamble that needs to go before that. Just show us what you do. And as someone who's now been in that decision maker role, you have to be able to show the same type of level. It's you in a meeting room with 100 people in it is not the same as you in front of 2,500 or 3,500 people.
Yeah. I mean, but you can, even in that environment, and I would agree with you that it doesn't put you on the same parallel, apples to apples.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that environment, I think you can convey the same level of confidence, authority, comfort. It's just like what an audience is viewing. An audience sitting there watching a speaker is thinking, I hope I can be comfortable with you. I hope I can be relaxed. I hope you're relaxed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And video just conveys that so perfectly, almost to a fault, because you can't get away with anything, right? And then the other videos that we do, and I know we're going to get to this in terms of when you're talking to a camera.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole different art form.
Yeah, let's just chunk it down. And please know, listeners, Wealthy Speaker listeners, that you do the best with what you've got, and when you've got better, you use better. I mean, this is really your video is never done.
No.
There's no complete. It's just a journey, right?
It's a feedback loop, right? So you're watching footage, which, by the way, is painful.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're watching footage of what you did and saying, that works. Oh, that's, I'll never do that again.
Yes.
And this informs your next presentation and your next speech. But you only know what you look like on video by watching yourself on video.
Right.
And so I think of this as like leapfrogs, so it's like this video will get me the next opportunity to hear.
Yes.
It'll get me the next opportunity to hear. And then,
yes.
As you continually evolve that, people say, well, should I just hire somebody? Should I just hire somebody to crank out a phenomenal video? Well, it depends. It depends, because wherever you might be in that journey, if you're going to be considerably better a year from now, or if you're going to be, if your material is going to be completely different a year from now, why would you want to invest a lot of money now to produce a video of your current ability?
This is such a good point. I mean, it's $10,000 or beyond to get a really good, solid video. So wait until you're really, really good to do that particular video. What's been great about YouTube and all of the different things that have gone on in social media over the last years is that we don't necessarily need that big, splashy, well-produced video in the early stages of our career. When we get to like the $10,000 mark as a speaker, then you better show me something pretty substantial on video. But really a great clip of you commanding your stage. And like you said, Dan, even if it is a small meeting room, owning it and being great in that moment is a good way to go. So I'm so glad we're covering some of this information, and I hope you'll I hope you'll have people, I know you will, be bringing it forward at the Video Lab. Let's give a little plug for NSA's Video Lab here.
Okay, so it's coming right up, and so depending on what time, when you see this video, it's April 12th through 14th in Atlanta. So as the president, you get to pick one event that's a lab type situation, which means we're going to focus with a smaller number of people, with about 100 people, on a specific topic. 2 years ago, we did the Video Lab in Tempe, Arizona, and it was an incredible success. And it's all about how are you great on camera? How do you produce your own video? How do you do mobile video? How do you use video to get booked and get hired, or to create a new revenue stream? So basically, there's a lot to this topic, and in 2 years, it has evolved a lot. So this is like Video Lab 2.0.
That's great. And
so who's in charge of this one is Eric Chester and Steve Spangler. So two Hall of Fame killer speakers.
Oh my gosh!
And Steve, Eric brought in Steve because there's no one in NSA who's more.
Well, he's been on the Ellen DeGeneres show like a bazillion times. He's just the nicest guy too, but he does it well.
Steve has his own Emmy-nominated TV show right now called DIY Sci. He's a science master. His YouTube channel was so successful, YouTube came out to see Steve and said, we want to know what you're doing, and can we help you go even further? So he has like intimate relationships with YouTube.
That's awesome.
He has over 100 appearances on Ellen and over 1,000 appearances overall. And he's just one of these guys that's mastered this ability to be able to look into a camera and develop an intimate relationship. Same with Ross Schaefer, who also is a veteran in that world. And then we've got like a panel of meeting planners who look at video all the time. That's all they do is they look at video about hiring speakers.
Yeah.
Corporate executives, even including Fortune 500, meeting associations, the speakers bureaus, and they're just going to shoot us straight in terms of what works, what doesn't, and what gets you like instantly eliminated. But then also all the skills and the breakouts that will help you to create your own videos, or to do like even using your iPhones. Like, how do you do great mobile video content? How do you turn this into a revenue stream? Chad Hymas is our close. He does a 7-figure business
in video,
multiple using his iPhone.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so if people want to know more about that, they need to go to
nsaspeaker.org, nsaspeaker.org, and to the learning experiences, and sign up for Video Lab. And yeah, I mean, you could even if you're just hearing this and you're like, wow, that's next weekend.
Come. I mean, that's not too late. Check and see if 100, you're taking 100 people. I think that's really great. The smallest events have been some of my favorite events. I don't know if you were there, Dan, but going to the book event, there was like a book winter workshop in Mexico that I went to, that NSA did, and I wrote my book like a year from the moment I was at that event. A year later, I had a book in my hand. That was just a tremendously helpful deep dive on the subject matter. And I think if you want to do video, why not go and learn from the people who are doing video in the best ways possible? I want to circle back to something that you just said, because I used to I had 6 years under the roof of a speakers bureau, 2 years running the exclusives division for a speakers bureau. And we would get in, back in the day, videotapes in the mail. And so we'd sit around, probably 10 of us, sit around a boardroom table, and someone would slip a tape in. And I cannot tell you how many times someone in the room said, "Next." You had like 30 seconds, and if it wasn't impressive enough, that tape came out and the next one went in. And I felt bad in hindsight, looking back at how jaded I was, because it almost made me angry when people would send us tapes that weren't even remotely kind of what you would consider up to the bar of a bureau. And so we just say, next, next, next. And we were and I'm sure you got to that point where you were doing that when trying to select speakers for influence.
Yeah. I mean, and think about how far that sets you back. If you're trying to make an impression with someone, if you have that opportunity where they've given you a room full of people who are going to consider this tape, and it's just not there, it's just not ready, or it wastes their time, you've made it harder for you to go back and reconnect with them at a later date. You have to overcome, if they remember it, some first impression that wasn't favorable. I used to fantasize about videotapes or promo materials that would self-destruct after a certain period of time. Because then you could just,
really good.
replace them. And now you can essentially do that, because you could host everything online and then just pull it down when you don't want to use it anymore.
Oh, that's so good. Vince Pacenti, before I came to work for him in Dallas, he had sent out a video to the bureaus, and he'll tell you this story as well as I would, that was premature. He wasn't ready to go out to the bureaus yet.
Yeah.
And it took us 2 years to undo the bad that video, it took a long time to really prove to people that wait, he is really good. And so you have to be careful. So let's say that one of our points is that no video is better than a bad video, or a video that doesn't serve you well. So be thinking about that. Okay. So we have different uses for video. We have the leading up to the engagement video. Let's talk about a video that you have done, Dan, that got you some speaking engagements? What has been a video that seemed to really do the trick for you, aside from your demo, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we talked about them this morning, the hold videos. And
Mm-hmm.
hold videos have been a differentiator for some time.
Great.
Clients and bureaus love them because you can give them a little shout out and love when you do the videos. But essentially, again, it's a very quick connection to say, thanks for this opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
a little personal touch without, again, coming across too needy. But let me express to you that I understand what you need and I've got the right piece of the puzzle for you. And essentially you're going to be like, I got this, right? Let's continue the conversation.
Very nice. And you're introducing the idea of off balance on purpose at that point?
Yeah. And so I'll say, and again, with our studio and and my wife, Shay, who edits extremely well. And our son's also an editor. He does our weekly videos, which I think we'll talk about in a few minutes. But Shay we just did a few this morning. She'll take those clips of me and I'll say, I'm Dan Thurman, author of the book Off Balance on Purpose. So we'll get a little cut in of the book.
Yeah.
To just kind of, again, a little subtle credibility. And I thank you for considering me for your event, blah, blah, blah. Here's what I know already. This is what I would bring to the table. And then for me, because again, the context is important, I say, the way I deliver the message is unique in that I leverage my skills, my experience, my demonstrations and visual elements to amplify what I'm teaching. And then we cut away during those sections to some of the B-roll from my speech.
Okay. Nice.
So again, it's like putting the wow factor in the right context in their mind because they've already seen me first as author. They're hearing me talk with them about something that's not prepared. It's just off the cuff. And so they know I've got it. And then they see the visual elements. And so in my mind, we're checking their boxes. It's like, okay, this guy's good. He's a pro. He's an author. Yeah. He looks great on stage. And he brings these other elements. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And again, will it get me the gig? Maybe. It may just get me the next conversation.
Right.
Which is good enough. And particularly when you're working through bureaus, you don't know how many people they're putting out for the same job, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you're eliminated, you never know why exactly. I mean, and so I don't presume that was a reflection of something they didn't like. It just wasn't the right fit, or they, needed something in a different area, or they're looking for somebody with
You've learned not to take it personally when you don't get the business. And I think that's something that is really important for people to do. It's just that it wasn't a good match at this moment, but it might be later on.
The other thing we do with our studio, so those are hold videos. We also do pre-event videos. Let's say an association hires me and they're coming in to do the National Association of whatever. And they've got a big meeting in Boston. Well, they're trying to drive event registration. And so they're always looking for content. They're always looking for another reason that they can reach back to that audience and say, have you registered yet? Have you signed up yet? And so those are situations where I could say, hello, National Association of whatever, Dan Thurman here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm so excited to be your speaker at this event that's coming up. Mm-hmm. And here's the theme, here's the location, here's what I'm going to bring. Yeah. Here's some of what you're going to see. I can't wait to see you there. Whatever.
Awesome.
It's done in a way that's very short, minute and a half tops. And, but it gives them that one more tool that they wouldn't otherwise have. And I've had clients tell me, I've never had people, do this for us before. We're going to start requesting this of other speakers. And I've had others who said, this is what our speaker did last year. Would you do something similar? Right. So it's becoming more expected.
It's becoming more the norm. And so you're becoming the partner in the meeting and helping them to promote the meeting. And that's why they're going to look at your social media footprint and all the different things leading into the event. So let's switch gears to social media. You said that you send out a weekly video, but I imagine you also put videos out on social media. So let's talk about those.
Yeah, we do. And this is part of my strategy for a couple things, Jane, in terms of my brand, the way audiences perceive me, the way I stay in touch with my audiences. So for my audiences, I offer them a free weekly coaching video, which is 2 to 3 minutes in length, and that I do from on the road wherever I happen to be in the world. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of like follow Dan on the road. And so I've put myself in the situation where I have to generate really strong content in a short form every single week. It's quite a commitment, right? And so I do it in a way with a pretty nice level of production value using only my iPhone, because these cameras are phenomenal. I use natural lighting for the most part, and I can shoot some B-roll of the environment that I'm in and then stage shots using my phone, using a really high quality microphone and a tripod. And that's really what I travel with. And I script it in advance, or sometimes I improvise it, but I have very clear guidelines.
Right.
And I just follow through on this commitment. So I shoot all the raw footage. I upload it to the cloud, in our case, Google Drive.
Right.
I share that Google Drive with my son, Eddie, who's in college right now in Boston at Berklee College of Music. And Eddie.
Hey, Eddie.
Yeah, he's actually a phenomenal editor as well. And Eddie cuts these videos every single week. And so for me, it's phenomenal because I'm collaborating with my son. And for him, it's fantastic too, because I'm paying him, something nice every week.
That's
nice. He's earning some money in college.
Yeah.
But it's a great connection, because when I'm sharing this wisdom with my audiences,
and you're sharing it with your children as well, and that is super cool because
and he's actually at High Point, North Carolina now at Nito School.
Oh, nice!
But he's transferring to Berklee starting this summer. So
very, very cool. Well, I love that, and I know a lot of people would like to have an Eddie who could then take the footage. But I do want to encourage people that your phone is enough. Like, if you want to do something, it doesn't have to be quite as Dan Thurman produced. It can be something that is just, hey, I'm standing here and I'm thinking about this. Your videos are on topic, right? Like, everything would kind of be around off balance on purpose or something like that, right?
Self-mastery, the topics that we talk about. And so, exactly.
Okay. All right. So I want to make sure that people know that you're not always talking to the camera saying, hey, hire me, I'm a speaker. That is not the idea behind these videos at all.
Not for these, but what they do is they put me in front of my clients over and over again. So what I've noticed is people who may have worked with me a few years ago say, wow, Dan, we've been watching Dan every week for the past several weeks. He's got a lot of new ideas and things to say. I think it's about time we bring him back.
That's great. That's exactly what we want.
Or you mentioned the social proof. When people are considering me for an event, they very often drill down deeper into those videos to see what kind of reach they have and what I'm saying, and is it congruent? Or am I just a one-trick pony? And that's the big differentiator for me is being more established in this world of thought leadership and authorship and just creating a nice body of work. So Beautiful. For me, the strategy is fairly loose. I have others like I mentioned, Chad, who he does a weekly video in a similar way that he charges his clients for as a follow-up mechanism. He's going to be talking a lot more about that in Atlanta, but yeah, it's a multi-million-dollar aspect of his business is just
so. Okay, let's just talk about that for a second. So Chad does a presentation, and he's probably pre-sold this video series to the client by asking, hey, how long would you like my message to last? Oh, we'd like to last a long time. Well, guess what? I have a video series that I can offer you that will follow me out of the engagement. This is where we're headed.
Yeah, he's planted the idea maybe beforehand, but really the sale happens as a result of how effective he is with the audience, right?
In the moment. Great.
In the moment, right? It's like, how was that experience? How much did the audience love it? If I was a buyer, I would wait as well to find out.
Yeah.
Did this really resonate? But and quite often it's not the case that it's a good that. What you got to think about when your client is saying, I want to put this new video in front of your clients every week. Well, they have a limited amount of communication, limited attention span. So when we get a chance to communicate with our employees or with our customers or whatever this much every week. So we're going to give a percentage of that to you. It better be good.
Yeah.
And it better be quick. Like you better, nobody's going to sign up to have their employees go through a 30-minute video coaching course every week.
Let's talk about that. The videos that are getting the best results are
in terms of
1 minute, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, length.
Well, for me, and again, we're staying with the weekly video. So just the life coaching, for me, they're inspirational in nature.
Okay.
I always try to do a twist on an idea.
Okay.
Sometimes, there's certain concepts that it takes longer to teach, right? So you can have a video that's 3-4 minutes that is still very engaging, right? But as Ford Sakes put it, your video, there's no such thing as a video that's too long. It's only not interesting enough or not relevant enough or whatever. So as long as you've got me, you've got me. And we could also list examples of people whose videos go on forever, and yet they still have you in the palm of their hand.
I was trying to see how long Kelly Swanson's video was. She's sitting at 1.3 million views right now. So she got a video out on Goalcast. And if you look across the board at the types of videos that are on Goalcast, you can search on Facebook, the Daily Goalcast, and you'll see all of the different ones. There's another one there about disabilities, 3 minutes. Disabilities are not definitions. Hers is called Trust Your Cape. I can't see how long that one, but it's like 2, 3, 4 minutes, something like that. So just study them, because it looks like you could get 36.1 million views with a 4-minute video here. So just, for everything we're talking about, like you said, Dan, it's got to be interesting. It's got to be captivating. It's got to move people in that direction of wanting to do something.
But I will say again about the audio is, if you're going to do, and Kelly, the Goalcast videos are a little different because they're cutting in.
They're produced.
They're produced, and they're using live stage footage.
Yeah,
it's really high end. And again, that's Goalcast. That's their brand and their platform. They're leveraging all of that.
Yeah.
The question about what we can do organically starts with a smaller seed, but we can grow that seed into something else that's remarkable. So the mic that I use for my iPhone is a Sennheiser. It's a Sennheiser clip mic is what it's called. But it plugs right into your iPhone. And what it does very, very well in the environments I'm in is it eliminates the background noise to a very high degree. Including wind, so you get a produced studio sound. People will forgive a shaky video much, much easier than they would forgive terrible sound that's drowned out, right?
Okay, and we're going to put a link to that in the show notes, and we'll give a shout out to Game Mic that's also designed for the same idea in terms of blocking out all of the ambient sound. Very nice. All right, so we've talked about let's talk a little bit about social. What I love about LinkedIn is that you can see who actually looked at your video, like in terms of categories. How cool has that been for your business to kind of go back and say, hey, there seems to be a lot of people from one sector that are looking at me?
Yeah. There was one video I did. It was a spontaneous video where I moved my mother-in-law from Oklahoma to Georgia to live with us. While my wife was out of town. So my wife was in France at a writer's retreat.
Wow.
And mom had called and said, and we kind of knew that the day would come when she said, I'm ready to come live with you. And so she called and she said, I'm ready, but I know Shay's out of town now. And so when she comes back, then we'll figure out a good time. But I sensed that she was really ready. And I said, well, what if we knock this out while she was gone? And then she comes back and it's
surprise her.
And so
that's fun.
And so the video starts with me at 5:30 a.m. on my front porch saying it's 5:30 in the morning, I'm getting ready to fly to Oklahoma to move my mother-in-law to Georgia, and my wife has no idea I'm doing this, right? And then it follows this journey, and it's only a couple minutes.
Yeah.
But that one, for some reason, got shared over and over again because it had the personal story, right? It had the personal hook. And so I haven't looked recently, but it's got something like at least 35, 40,000 views on LinkedIn.
And so let's bring that back to, so if I'm someone who is a decision maker and I'm looking and I stumble across that video as a part of your portfolio, I'm thinking to myself, oh, that guy did that for his mother-in-law. And I think about my own mother and would my husband do that, and da-da-da-da-da. And so it's so good. I mean, it's adding one more layer to the mix. It shows where your values lie, how much you value family. And you know what? We want to hire people who are nice people. So I love that, Dan. That's so cool.
Yeah. And it, I think that's a big part of it. I had people tell me, you are, you got me in trouble with my wife because she said, you would never do that for me, whatever. But, and it's congruent. It's congruent for me with my message about family and life connections that also become part of your work-life connections. So
wow. Well, listen, we have covered a lot of ground. We've talked about the hold videos. We've talked about weekly videos and releasing things on social. We've talked about the demo video. I really appreciate your time today, Dan, because I know you have a busy agenda. So thank you so much for taking the time out. We're going to put some things in the show notes that we talked about today to make sure that people can go and grab them in terms of the mic and things like that we talked about. Anything else that's really important that you say about this?
I would just say you got to get started. And don't try to be like anything else. You can't be good at this video thing until you have a lot of hours logged. People talk about being confident on stage. Well, it's the same thing about being confident with a camera. Looking at a camera and saying, and being able to look through the lens into the heart of your audience and just have this idea in your mind of the person that you're talking to, and just, this genuine nature that you're comfortable with them is very, very different than the idea of performing to a camera. Most people start with that acute self-awareness. How do I look? What am I saying? What are my words? How am I moving? And they're performing to a camera. Like being on stage in front of an audience, it's no different. When you can transcend that self-awareness and just be present and comfortable and connected with the camera, then your intimacy goes up. And that's what the video medium allows us, is a great deal of intimacy to talk one-on-one to a viewer in a way that you could just never do from a stage.
I love it. I love it. Well, Wealthy Speaker listeners, I hope that you have appreciated our video, hopefully video today. And I think it came through pretty clear. And if you did, please leave us a rating, leave us a review. Let Dan know that you, how do people get in touch with you, Dan?
Dan at danthurman.com, or you can check out my website, danthurman.com with an O, THURMON.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And with that, we will say, see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now, everyone.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Show. Please visit speakerlauncher.com for your free Wealthy Speaker audit, and visit speakerlauncher.com/podcast for show notes and many more resources to help you catapult your speaking business. See you soon, Wealthy Speakers.